that I did, but I'll be really honest. So my dad is a little bit old-fashioned. So my dad's 71 now, and he grew up in that sort of generation whereby, you see that these businesses around so-and-so and sons. So he always assumed, because he had daughters, that his daughters wouldn't be interested in business. They would go on and get jobs and hopefully be really successful, but he just assumed that it wouldn't be in business. And it wasn't until I was in my mid-teens and I started taking an interest in the family business, which is a little wallpaper and paint shop in our village. And they've had that business, 20 years at the time. So when I was in my mid-teens and started taking an interest, all of a sudden my mum and dad got really excited. And then I decided I was going to go off to university and I was going to learn all the stuff in the textbooks so that I could come back and I could show my dad how it's really done and teach him how business should be done in the 21st century. And it was that which really drove me. It was the whole thing of, I am going to make this really important thing that's been the cornerstone of our family for the last 20 years. I'm going to take it over and take it to the next level. So I had to be driven, not just for my own achievement and success, but because I was going to set our family up for the next generation. Or so I thought. That was the ambition at the time.
And it has set your family up for many generations, I would imagine.
Well, so the interesting thing is I went off to university to study management, and I did one of these courses where you do a couple of years of studying, then you go and work for a year, and then you go back to studying. And so in that year that I worked, I went to work for this tiny little craft company, and it opened my eyes to this really exciting card making and paper craft industry that I had no idea existed, if I'm being totally honest. And I fell in love with the industry. I fell in love with the customers. It's not a hobby to them, it's a passion and they love it. And I thought, I love this industry. And so I decided I want to start a business in this industry. I had a head full of magic, loads of ideas. So I went off to university, and I ended up launching the business kind of in my spare time on the side while I was studying. And I say in my spare time, it quickly overtook my whole life. And the thing is, I started that in the October time when I went back to my final year at uni. By the time I graduated 9 months later, Crafter's Companion, my business, was actually bigger than the wallpaper and paint shop business that my parents had been building for the last 20 odd years. So I moved home. My dad built this little office in the garage underneath, to the side of the wallpaper and paint shop, and I had Crafter's Companion while they ran the shop. And it just took off massively, and now it's 20 times bigger than their wallpaper and paint shop. But the great thing is, my sister did the same, and she started to show an interest in the business when she got to that same sort of age in the career. So here's my dad thinking, I've had daughters, I'm going to be scuppered, there's going to be no future, next generation of the family business. And now my sister and her husband run that business and have grown that business fivefold since they took over it. So they have a really successful third generation family business, and I have Crafter's Companion.
Now tell me about cricket, because it's brought you a lot of joy in life, hasn't it?
Well, yes, it really has. So my dad was a fan of cricket and used to go and watch our local team, and my mum used to pack me and my sister off as kids on a Saturday afternoon so she could get a bit of peace. So we used to have to go to the cricket with my dad, and I really enjoyed it. And I got a little job chalking on, it's called in the cricket industry. So I used to chalk onto the team. £5.50 I used to get paid for 7 hours work on a Saturday afternoon, keeping the score. Telling you what them were the days. So but yes, the star of the team, the opening batsman, was Simon Davies, and who came to the scorebox one day, a bit of flirting, asked for my number. I was only 15 at the time, he was 19, so it was quite a scandal, I can tell you. And yes, so that was how I met my husband. 15-year-old, going to watch cricket, never had a boyfriend before, didn't know who would talk to boys until this lad walked into the scorebox and asked for my number so he could give us a lift to the match one day. And so that's where my love of cricket's come from.
And also, your husband gave up his own very good job, didn't he, travelling around the world. I'm not quite sure what he does or did, but now he works with your company and you work together, don't you?
So Simon will tell you he is retired, and I'm doing them air quotes now. Simon will tell you that he retired 13 years ago. So we met when I was very young, and because I started Crafter's Companion, as I told you, when I was at university, and Simon had a really successful career. He was an accountant, and so I would be running the business, and he would always do all of our accounts, which was really helpful. But Simon was clearly good at management, and he'd been put through loads of management training in his career and everything like that. I was just a young whippersnapper in the early 20s who started the business. Realised quite quickly she didn't know everything there was to know, but I had bags of enthusiasm and loads of energy, and I loved doing all the fun stuff in the business. So I loved doing all the sales and the market and the meeting the customers. I have zero interest in the logistics and the shipping and the IT and all the boring bits that go with it. Turns out they're all the bits that Sam's really good at, because we're total chalk and cheese. So yes, so he one day decided, he said, I can see that this is not going to work. Basically I would run at 100 miles an hour, leave a massive trail of destruction behind me. I had about 10 staff, used to drive them around the bend. They loved me and loved my enthusiasm, but I literally drove them around the bend.
Sarah, I'm so sorry to do this. Can you maybe hold the wires so that they're not bouncing around, because it's giving us real clacking sounds and it's such a shame. Just to keep it as still as possible, yeah.
Sounds like you're playing.
I can sit.
That's better.
Sit top up a little bit. You don't have to look at
Keep
me
right.
boobs.
I loved looking at your boobs, I'm overtly heterosexual, but you have a fine, what do you call it? Embonpoint.
Very nice. It sounds like you're playing the castanet.
Yes, that's it.
Yeah, which is really nice, Sarah.
That's better.
Can I ask a craft question, Sarah?
Oh, go on. Yes,
Now,
you can ask any questions.
Well, thank you. There was a debate kicking off on Twitter at 6 o'clock this morning. Actually started by me. On Blue Peter, when they were crafting, they always said sticky back plastic, right? Now, is that
Sticky back plastic?
Well, I think that was called Fablon. Am I right?
Yes, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. So, but I also think sticky back plastic is a much nicer thing to call it.
Than Fab.
Because then you know what it does.
Yeah.
It does what it says on the tin, that it's plastic, it's got a sticky back.
Can you still get Fablon?
You can. You can still get sticky back plastic.
Thank you. You cleared something up. All right, I'm out of it.
Thank you. Let's talk about dragons then. What do you think defines you as a dragon compared to the others?
After 800
I
yards,
definitely got the
keep
reputation
right.
quite quickly as being the nice dragon. So, and do you know what? I'm kind of okay with that. And the thing is, I remember, so when I first went for my interview for Dragon's Den, I remember the producers, we had loads of Skype interviews, and I was going down to do my screen test audition. And I remember her saying to me a little bit of a pep talk before I went into the audition. She said, we think you're really lovely and you could be nice for the show, but you're just a little bit nice. And it's
right.
Dragon's Den, and we just need you to be a bit more dragony. And I remember really chewing over this on the train on the way down to London, thinking, oh my God, it's like any job interview. I could go in there and I could have pretended and been anything they wanted me to be just to get the job. But I thought, you can't do that, because then I would have to go into the series and be that person that I'm not, and pretend to be something that I'm not, and I can't live with that, and I can't enjoy that. So I had took this really brave decision on the train that morning, and decided, you know what, I'm going to go in and be myself. And either it'll be okay, and that'll be right, or if it's not, then as much as this is the biggest opportunity of my life, and I'd love to do it, clearly it wasn't meant to be. And so I remember going in and just being the nice person, the dragon that you see on screen now, and hoping that they all liked it. And hey, it's all worked out.
Well, it has. But have you ever had any regrets about being emotionally invested in any of the decisions you've taken, being that kind of person?
Do you know what? So I went through quite a big life lesson, I would say, in my early 20s. And because back then I used to just wear my heart on my sleeve, and every decision I made in the business was one I made with my gut, and a lot of it was driven by emotion. And at the time we had a massive issue because one of my products, which is patented, a really big company decided they were going to rip it off, and it was a huge David and Goliath type thing, and I was deciding that I was going to go to court and fight them in the courts, and you know, in the thick of it, I remember I was into it for about £250,000, which was money that my business couldn't really afford to lose, and I'd gone headlong into that, making the decision with my heart, not my head. Now, thankfully, as you'll read about the book, it all came out, it all worked out well. There's a very long story with a lot of twists and turns in it, but I think going through that process made me realise that through that, not one person had decided, oh, they were going to make a personal attack on me. It's some board of directors somewhere looked at my product, thought that's a really good product, checked my patent out, thought we think we can design around that, weighed up a financial commercial risk, decided it was worth taking the risk to rip my product off, and then they went ahead and did that. It wasn't a personal decision to attack me, it was just a commercial business decision. I mean, the wrong one, clearly for them. They didn't know what they were going to be taking on in me, didn't they? But at the time, I kind of went through that learning of it's not personal, it's just business. And I think that's really stayed with me going into the day. There were entrepreneurs that walked through the door. It would be so easy to get wrapped up in a story with, I need to help this person. But I can't do that. I know that I have a quota of however many businesses I'm investing in the series. And it's not because I've only got X amount of money to spend, it's that there's only so much salary to go around. I know that I've only got the time and the